All right, I think I'm up and running now. All right, hello everybody. I'm Jonathan Sampson, program manager on the Edge team, and I've been kind of doing these weekend live debug sessions for, I don't know, a few weeks now. So I'm here in the office on the Microsoft Redmond campus on this Saturday, like most Saturdays. And I think this is kind of a cool opportunity for us to chat, get to know one another. I've got a chat box right over there. The mirrorness of this is a little confusing. So drop in on YouTube and yeah, share with me some busted URLs, slower broken sites, or just some general HTML, CSS, and JavaScript inquiries, and we'll fill out a couple of hours here. Am I muted? Let's see here. Check, check. No, I'm not muted. Okay, cool. Had a bit of a, I guess, a little bit of worry there. I thought I was actually broadcasting just with no audio again. This happened last week. Right, so I've got, let's see, I've filed 2 bugs so far this morning. Let's see, there's another one I was wanting to work on, which is, let's see. It was a mobile issue. And it was actually shared a couple of weeks ago, I think. So let's see here. I have presently, let's see. Yep. Set up the little screen sharing app again so I can share my mobile phone screen. There we go. So I'm actually trying to get the project my screen app up. All right, there we go. So let's see if I were to switch over to the bottom right view here. This is what we see. So this is actually the site I was looking at, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So this is, I'm not quite sure what this is, but the issue here was if you focus on one of these fields, you notice I just focused on email and it went away, and password and it went away. It's actually not quite clear what's happening. There is some odd stuff on this page that I was looking at before. There's actually a little bit of scripting that changes the meta viewport size. And so if we were to look at that real quick, so I've actually got a VM set up here. The VM here is actually it's acting as the proxy for this particular mobile device. So if we were to kind of expand this out a little bit, and let's refresh the page. You'll notice it'll pop up here inside my Fiddler instance. I'll actually turn on decoding for everything. And let's go to the autoresponder. Actually, I'm going to do the inspector real quick, and we can just kind of look at what this is doing here at the very bottom. So one of the first things I was looking at was, let's see if we go to the text view. Down here at the very bottom-ish, I think this is, you know what, it actually might be inside one of the JavaScript files. Let's see, so... Yep, I'm going to delete this. Let me see if I can delete my cache real quick, and we'll do this one more time. Okay, so right now I'm just inside my phone, delete my cache. I want to make sure that all files are actually requested whenever I load this site up. I want to get all the sub-resources, so the JavaScript files, the CSS files, all of that good stuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and just remove all these sessions again and refresh this page. So we should see now, there we go. Now these are starting to come in again. So we've got Bootstrap inside here, 200K of that. That's quite a large file. We have the portal one right here, which I'm going to go ahead and create an autoresponder of that, and we'll kind of get onto what that is here in just a moment. So we'll pull that over. And I think the next part that I want is probably this platform file. So there's input mask, fast click, select, bootstrap, jQuery val. I'm going to grab this platform file and just pull that over as well. So next up, we can actually change the file that is going to be loaded on the phone whenever we request this particular site. So this is a crucial kind of step into doing any reduction is I no longer want to get the file that's on the server, on the atag1 server. I want to get the file that's actually being loaded here on my Fiddler. So that's what the autoresponder is. If you remember a couple weeks back, if you were actually watching, the Fiddler application is this web proxy debugger. So if you think about kind of the relationship between the browser that you're using, in this case, Edge on mobile, and the server that you're requesting files from, which in this case would be this atag1, there's this kind of space between them. So you have the browser here, and it sends the request off to the server. The server responds back with the response, the file, generally the contents of the index.html file. As it's parsing that, there are more resources inside there: images, CSS files, JavaScript files. Those are then requested from the server, sent back, requested more, sent back, images, requested, sent back. And that's what you notice whenever we look down the session here. So the very first thing, obviously, we made the request for portal. We got the response. The very first file when we were parsing the portal file that was requested was this bootstrap file. And subsequently, actually look at, trying to think if this window browser Edge, this may not be part of that. Yeah, that's the smart screen. So the next one was a true type font, and then followed by some other resources. So what we actually do is we want to put Fiddler in the middle of those. So Fiddler then sits in between, and it kind of mediates and acts as this middleman with regards to the request. So whenever the browser sends off a request, it doesn't go straight to the server. It first has to go through Fiddler. Fiddler can then say, oh, actually, you know what, given this URL that you're requesting, I think we're just going to respond back with this cached copy of the index file from the server. And we can manipulate that cached copy. So the browser has no idea that it's being, that there's this middleman this middleman leverage that's being placed kind of in the play. And so we actually continue to use the site as we would the real site, but in reality, we're actually using this autoresponder file from Fiddler. So let's go ahead and see if I can, I want to see if we can actually jump back real quick and get both the, so here is the image. This is the screen. Let me make sure I can see how that looks. I'm hoping the quality of the broadcast is high enough. With Fiddler and some of these things, there can be some small text, really densely populated text regions, but we'll try. It looks like it's actually fairly decent over here on my screen. So the first thing I want to do is you'll notice we can actually click here and interact on the screen as well. So I'm using my mouse now. If I just show you that here side by side, you can see I'll click on email, click on password. Again, this is a really cool app. You can actually download Project My Screen app from the Windows Store, if I'm not mistaken. So what I want to do first is, let's see, we'll make a slight modification inside the index file. We'll go to Edit Response, Text View, and inside here, I think I'm going to go ahead and just pull out some contents. So we've got the logo region. I can just take that entire section out. So we delete that. And I'm going to save the autoresponder. There we go. Yeah, there was a bit of a windowing issue there. Okay, so let's see. We've got the autoresponder saved. I'm going to jump back in and make sure I can see my my phone here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually the next thing, once you've saved your autoresponder, you want to make sure that the actual autoresponder file is being used whenever this is requested again. So let's see, if I open up my phone again real quick and I just hit the refresh button, you'll notice there's a new request made, but this time the row is actually highlighted in like this bluish purple kind of color. And so that indicates that we're actually using the autoresponder file, not the server's file. So let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and you'll notice another thing. If I drop this down and I minimize all this good stuff, what we have now is no logo. So there used to be a logo right here, but that's actually gone. So our autoresponder is working. Just to confirm that, there's this text down here. If you don't have an account yet, I think we might go ahead and try and pull that out as well. So let's see if we jump inside here. We'll open up the autoresponder, and we need to find that section that talks about not having an account. So that's presumably just down below here. Here it is. So this span tag right here. In fact, I'll take out this whole div. We'll save this, and then we'll go back and check out, we'll refresh. So we should now see, okay, yep, so that text down at the bottom is gone. So this is amazing. Like we are actually, and realize like this is, the browser has no idea. It thinks that we are on this portal atag1.com account site. This is magic. It's really, really magical. So the next thing is to see if this is still reproing. Yep, still reproing. So, you know, the likelihood that this is caused by an HTML element or something like that is very low. I simply don't see that. What I suspect is happening, there are some JavaScript events that are in place that are causing the focus to be lost, or maybe a couple of different elements striving with one another for which one gets focused. So I think what we're going to do at this point is start to rip out some of the resources, the JavaScript files, and see if maybe the removal of one of those results in this issue no longer reproing. So let's go ahead and try that real quick. I'm going to jump back down to my VM. And down here at the very bottom, you'll notice that we actually have all of our bundles. So we have this Bootstrap one. I'm going to delete that. Fairly confident that Bootstrap isn't the cause. But just to be sure, after I delete something, I'm going to go ahead and come back here and refresh. We'll see some changed styles whenever I actually start to delete like the Bootstrap CSS file, because there's probably some CSS inside here. So clicking on those still auto hides. Next one is this input mask. Let's delete that. And let's see, we'll minimize this again. So input mask is now no longer being loaded, whatever that is. Clicking up here, still results in the auto hiding behavior. Let's see, I'm going to move. Got to set up my screen here so I can kind of monitor what's happening. Okay, so the next thing is, let's see, what comes after that? Next up, let's go with fast click. That sounds like a JavaScript library that's probably not crucial to the site. Next one I'm going to come in is delete this select to. That might kind of sounds like a progressively enhanced select element or something. Okay, so fast click, it does appear to be crucial to the site. You notice everything just kind of disappeared whenever we deleted that. So let's restore fast click. Just come in here and Control Z. And I want to make sure that that is working now. So I'm going to jump back over here and refresh. Okay, so we're back in business. And this happens every now and then. You might overstep your boundaries just a bit and delete too much. Let's see. Next up is at the very bottom of here. Let's delete. So here is the search drop down, no results. Looks like just some variables in place there. I'm not too worried about those. There are a couple lines of jQuery down here. Just out of curiosity, I think I'm going to delete one of these and see if see what the impact is. So we'll delete that one, come back and refresh the page. All right, so that's not crucial to reproing the bug. That's good to know. Let's come in here and let's delete the next one. This one looks like it's kind of dealing with cookies, so I'm not that worried about this one either. Refresh this page. Email still drops. So we are slowly whittling away at this page, getting rid of all of the noise, because what you want to do whenever you're dealing with these reductions is get it down to as few bytes as possible that reproduces the issue. So let's do this next one here is, let's pull out this script right here. I mean, this is at the very end of the page. We'll refresh. Okay. And so now we're looking at platform, fast click, select to. Let's go ahead and pull out this select to, see if we can get rid of that one as well. Password, email still drops, that's good. And this jQuery val, I don't know what that is. Let's pull that out as well. Pretty sure we want to leave jQuery in there. Fast click may have caused the page to break because of a JavaScript error. Let's see if we reload this. We're still losing it, so that's great. And next, I think I want to go ahead. What we can actually do at this point is we could potentially just start ripping out a bunch of this markup as well and get the page down to bare bone elements as well. But I think for the starters, I'm going to delete Bootstrap. We'll take out all this metadata up here at the top. None of this really appears to be necessary. We have the viewport width. We'll take all of this out. I'll leave the viewport declaration inside there because I know there is some code that goes out and looks for that, so I'm going to leave that alone. But the rest of this we can just delete. All right, we'll hit save, come back and refresh the page. Okay, so with Bootstrap gone, okay, so this is great. Bootstrap is not loaded, so we've lost all of our styles, but you'll notice now whenever we actually focus on a field, the keyboard stays up. So now I want to come back in here and kind of undo this, and I'm going to delete everything but Bootstrap. So all of this stuff here, we'll get rid of that. And we'll get rid of this stuff here just above it as well. So right now I have the link tag that actually points to the Bootstrap build. The title in there, title's not going to matter. The meta name, we'll delete this comment here at the very top. And we'll refresh. So we should have the same style. And as we expect, it just disappears whenever we focus on something. Okay, so let's see, what can we get rid of now? I'm going to get rid of this viewport just to see if the absence of it resolves this issue, because again, I know there is some code in here that selects the viewport and makes some dynamic changes to it. So it actually doesn't appear to impact it in any way. It's good to know. Okay, so let's delete a couple lines here, and I'm going to rip out this div. We don't need that. And a lot of this is just very repetitive. You want to make sure that you're making small modifications and then ensuring that these modifications don't fundamentally break the experience. You want to maintain the broken behavior. As you see here, the focus brings up the keyboard and it automatically shifts away. Again, all I'm doing is just clicking on email. So if I just touch it with my finger, touch password, that's what we want to maintain, that behavior, while we strip away all of these bytes. So I wonder if we really even need to have a form in here. Once we, actually, you know what, I think I might turn my attention here in just a moment to the actual platform file. So let's see, if we come down here, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the platform file now. So I believe that is this one. If we edit that response, go into text view. Okay, so this is not pretty. This is the minified platform file. At this point, it's always nice to have an option to beautify and format the code. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there might be an extension to Fiddler that can do that. But for now, I don't see it. So yeah, I may just we may just deal with it this way. Let's see if we go ahead and look at. Just take a quick kind of glance. One of the things I do want to look for, the first of all, is We know that we're dealing with focus and blur events and stuff like that. So really quickly, we could just do a search for a focus. And I see there looks like 5 matches for it. So if we were to hit enter here, there's a focus there. Another one. So at this point, I can beautify all of the JavaScript. Actually, I may wind up just doing that. So let's jump back real quick to the top center view. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to copy all of my JavaScript and take it onto the web. So let's see. I think I may drop the resolution of this VM as well. Nope, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my VM and I'm going to drop the resolution of it down just a bit. Just so I can get it all on the screen without having scroll bars and stuff. Okay, not going to happen. It looks like that is a fixed setting right now. So, okay, that's no problem. So Hunt here looks like well, let me actually address a couple things here. So Wesley says it looks like this bug does not want to be fixed. Wesley, actually, you would be surprised. The vast majority of bugs on the web like this, they could require 30 minutes to an hour worth of tinkering. So it is very common to see this type of experience. This is not at all out of the way. The web is a complicated place. I mean, and with especially optimizations and different tooling coming into play with modern web development, you now have pretty much all your source is going to be minified. Oftentimes it is obfuscated to the point where variables don't have meaningful names, functions don't have meaningful names. Everything is given like an A or B or single letters, and it makes it very hard to just infer from like a cursory glance of the code what is happening. So that's what makes, I guess, my job so exciting, is that you have to deal with some really complicated challenges at sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I'm going to grab that code and I'm going to go online and get a JavaScript formatter. And let's see here. I believe actually Bing JavaScript format. No, I think Bing has a JSON formatter. Just gonna do it. Yeah, so Bing does have a JSON formatter. Let me see if they have a JavaScript one. So if you just do a search for JSON format, yeah, they have a JavaScript one as well. So my Bing happens to be in Portuguese, so I have a formatador de JavaScript. What I'm going to do is actually just paste my JavaScript into here. Let's see if this actually works. So I'm going to jump back over and share my screen again. So I've got my, this is Bing right here with the formatter in there. Make that a little bit smaller. Try and get that on the screen here. And let's copy the source code. So this is the index page. I'm going to close that for right now. We're not really worried about that too much. And I'm going to grab the JavaScript from here. So I'll do Control A, Control C, and we'll just paste all of that into Bing. So you can see it's completely unintelligible. And we'll format that. So what Bing has just done was given me a nice formatted, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. So you can see the difference immediately, like night and day. So, go Bing. I'm going to copy that back out of there. And we'll delete all of this and paste in our nice new formatted JavaScript. So this is code that we can more easily visually parse. This is awesome. Okay. So let's go ahead and I will jump into full screen mode again, and we'll pick up on this. Make sure my phone is displaying. Sure is. Okay, so let's jump into full screen mode. Actually, I'm in full screen mode. Never mind then. So let's see. We're going to go ahead and increase the size of this. So I'm looking at a fully legible JavaScript file now. You can see that we have apply correct body padding. So this is body CSS padding top should be equal to the nav bar's outer height. We don't really need that logic there. I can't delete that function though, because then we'll get a bad reference error. But I can delete the logic of the function. So this function is now empty. This really shouldn't have too much of an impact on the page itself, but we should see probably less padding around the top of the document. So the email and password issue still exists. Let's see if we can look at what's next. We have any inputs that are of not top file should have opacity of 1. We don't need that in there. That's just changing the opacity of an element. We can just confirm that this still works. Yep, so let's see what's next. Now we have, there's a click event that is being fired here, so update front end. Just want to kind of go through too and see what's happening. So all of these are function declarations. This code it doesn't really do anything until it's invoked. So they're setting up a whole bunch of functions to be ran at a later date. Once we get down to the bottom though, like, let's see. So right here, this document ready function that we see that's actually specifying code that is going to be ran pretty early in the page lifecycle. So once the Windows load event fires, we're actually going to see apply correct body padding. So that was the method that we saw at the very top that we ripped the guts out of it. It no longer works. We have input text area focus in. So here we actually have something that's fairly interesting. So this is looking at, I should focus here rather. So this is looking at, it's grabbing all of the input and text area elements, and whenever the focus in event is fired, it looks at that particular element's data holder property, and it sets that to the placeholder value. It then sets the placeholder to empty, so I'm not quite sure why they're doing that. That is actually something that's already caused or done by the browser. So they're really only making a couple modifications here. They are setting a data property on the input elements, and they are dynamically erasing the placeholder value. So there is some kind of behavior happening right now whenever we focus on these input elements that is interesting. There's something happening directly with them. So let's pull this out real quick. Just going to delete this, save that, and we're going to jump back and see what the page looks like. So we need to turn my phone back on, refresh, and let's see if this has any impact. So we're still seeing these pop-up keyboard issues. Let's jump back inside here. Let's see what we have next. So we have, let's see, so there's a mouse down and touch start. So this is on the body. So anytime we mouse down or touch start on, I'm sorry, actually this is not on the body. This is using what's known as event delegation. So there's an event handler that is put on the body element, but it really only interacts and does anything whenever you are, when that event kind of comes from an element that matches the .btn selector. So you'll notice we have the jQuery selector, which is the body string, and then we have the events that we want to be kind of putting that event handler on, which are the mouse down and the touch start events. And for which elements that we actually want to be capturing events, and that's for the elements that match the .btn class or the selector. They have the .btn class on them. And what this does is it actually just applies the class active. So I suspect that's probably not going to be an issue as well. We also have the removal of the class active. So we'll take that out. And we can save this, and we'll jump back into the my phone fell asleep again. So let's see here. Jump back in here, refresh. So I believe this was just adding a class and pulling a class off, so that shouldn't have any impact whatsoever. Sure enough, it doesn't. Let's look at the next thing here, and I'll go ahead and close Bing. Thank you again, Bing, for formatting my JavaScript. That was very nice of you. And let's look at let's look here. So we have, there's that fast click reference. We have a function here called isMobileDevice, and this returns a true or a false. So I would just kind of shortcut all of that, and we'll just say, yeah, it's a mobile device. So I should be able to cut that code out. I don't suspect, I mean, that's just kind of dealing with the navigator user agent string. So we are just going to tell it, yeah, it's a mobile device. And okay, so that doesn't actually solve anything for us. Next up, let's see, we have the on orientation changed and on resize. So we can rip out both of those. I don't think those have anything to do with this. We're not changing the orientation or resizing it. We'll refresh. Okay, so this is interesting. You know what? We are changing the size. When this keyboard opens, it actually causes the browser window to resize. So, you know, now we're dealing not with all of this region here. If you see the mouse on the screen, we're dealing with only about half of that. So that's a really, okay, so we might be onto this now. So let's bring that back. I don't think it's the orientation changed portion, so I'm going to delete that, and we'll just keep the resized. And I'll save, and let's jump back in and look at the page now. So we're going to jump back here, not log in. Nope, nope. Okay, what did I just do? I just broke it. Let's go back. Okay, so refresh this. We should see the issue exist. Yep. Okay, so the orientation change function has nothing to do with this. It looks like it's the resize logic. We can see what happens on the resize event. So that was right here. Size fields is mobile device or apply correct padding. So we're not worried about this. We'll strip that out. So basically we have one function in mind now. The function in mind is this size fields. We want to know what are they doing whenever the browser viewport changes, which is what happens whenever we expand and collapse the keyboard. So, okay, the isMobile stuff is not necessary for the bug. So now we're looking for size fields. Size field sets, rather. So I want to go ahead and look up that. So size field sets. That is going to be equal to size field sets. We need to find that inside here. That's called all over the place. So here we are. Here's size field sets. Okay, so we have got a little bit of logic inside here. We have type of init margin right is undefined. So if this is true, if margin right is undefined, then we jump to the right hand of this ampersand ampersand, and we're going to start to evaluate the right side. So the right side is init margin left equals parseInt bg gray css margin left. So we're just kind of reading margins out at this point. Margin right is bg gray css margin right. Not really worried about any of that. I think we could probably actually just strip that out. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of poorly formatted code right here that makes it a little hard to just quickly guess as to whether or not you can strip something out. But let's try it. So we strip that out, refresh this page. Still losing the focus there, so that's good. And let's kind of just look at what's left here. So BG, if we're looking at if there are if there's more than one BG gray item, and the margin left, blah, 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 offset left, -1, BG, parse ints. So it doesn't look like there's anything immediately inside here. Outer width, CSS padding right, Windows width minus. So the body's visibility visible. You know what? I'm going to strip out everything except for that. This is interesting. And let's see if the code that we just removed causes the issue, or if the body visible causes the issue. Interesting. So it's possible that setting the body visibility to visible whenever you focus on an input causes the collapse of the keyboard. Let's see. So we may actually just be a couple minutes away from having the full reduction. So the body visibility visible. You know, let's go ahead and comment this out. This is the last line of code inside the size field sets. So this seems like it has to be the line of code that actually causes the issue. So we no longer have that logic in place, so we're not going to be switching the body visibility to visible whenever you focus on a field. Actually, you know what? The body is invisible right now, so what we need to do is, there's some CSS in place that has the body visibility set to hidden. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just set the body visibility to visible at the very top of this document. So we'll do document.body.style.visibility equals visible. And I think I spelt all of that right. I'm dealing with some fairly small fonts here. So that should give the body visibility on load. We'll refresh this. Okay. All right, so this is interesting. It looks like that's the issue, that adjusting the body visibility on focus is causing the problem. So what I want to do at this point is create a reduction. So the next step is to go ahead and open up a browser, go to JSBin or something like that, and see if we can't create a reduction real quick. So let's see if I can do that. We're going to make slight screen change modification here. And let's see, so I'm going to open my browser, and I'm going to go to jsbin.com, well, jsfiddle rather. jsfiddle rather, yeah, jsfiddle.net. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll look at the kind of construction of this reduction together on my screen. And I think, yeah, I'll log in so that I can share the URL with everybody out there. So I'm going to go to my editor, and let's switch the bottom right. So here is my my page. See if I can increase the size of this just a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put here in the very top. Actually, yep. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to put in the very top here. We're going to do an input, and you can see the input here. If I click on it, it is selected, and I'm going to come down here and actually we'll do this. We'll do on focus just to make sure this works. We'll put in the alert foo. Yep, okay, so that works. So what we're going to do inside here, instead of alerting foo, we'll just do document.body.style.visibility equals visible. And we're going to run that. Basically, this logic is going to fire whenever the focus event fires for this particular input. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the address on my phone. So we'll copy this, jump over to the project my app, my screen rather, and see if I can't open this up inside of a new tab. And we'll paste that URL. Oh, I can't paste the URL. No problem. I can type it. So JSFiddle. I guess I have to type it on my phone here. So JSFiddle.net/Jonathan Sampson /YREW 9RGC. Okay, so here is, as you can see, here is the actual page. I'm trying to think the URL to get the full site. I believe it might be full at the very end. Nope. Perhaps show. Yep, okay. So if you do show, now what we're expecting at this point is to click on this and to see the keyboard pop up and then immediately retract because of the event handler on there. Nope, that doesn't look like it is doing that. So back to the books. I suppose another thing that I might want to do. No, I think this is let's go ahead and try this on a different event. So the actual event being fired here. Let me jump into my desktop. Where was that method? So I'm going to pull out this custom line that displays the entire body. And where was that line? Here we go, down here. So size field sets, and we do that on the window resize. Okay. That was on the resize event that we do that. Okay, so essentially what we have to do is we have to trigger a resize event. Not on focus. Okay. All right, so we made a slight error here. Let's do window add event listener resize. And in our event listener, which we just put an anonymous function here, we'll go ahead and set the document.body.style.visibility equal to visible. Okay, it had nothing to do with the on focus. This is just getting thrown off by the fact that we are focusing on an input whenever we're doing this on the live site. So let's see if we run this. Okay, and I believe that works. So we'll do alert food just to see if the event. Now there's actually no resizing on the desktop though, so that's not really going to help. But what I can do just to make sure that it's being resized is we'll do document.body style background equals green whenever the resize event happens. So we'll update this, jump back into the mobile browser, and need to make a slight modification to the URL now that we're dealing with the first revision. So we'll come over here at the very beginning and just put a number 1 inside here. Okay, so resize occurred, but we didn't lose our keyboard. We got the green screen though. That's what we were expecting. Another thing to keep in mind is that with JSFiddle, we're actually dealing with iframes, I believe. So if we were to take this code over to a different service that does not deal with iframes, jsbin.com. And over on JSBin, if we were to copy this, and let's see, we'll drop it inside here. And the scripting, we can paste it over inside here. All right, so let's see here. If we do, back on my phone now, I'm going to try and go to this this URL. So this is going to be, oops, jsbin.com /TEMISERORI. And I think that's all we do actually for this one. So we're still not losing the focus there. So let's see. Let's jump back into this particular site again. So with the body visibility adjusted, just want to double check real quick. So I'm going to put some logic inside here that actually spits out the body visibility value. So we'll do document. Actually, we'll put an element inside here. So I'm going to put a p.status inside here. And then we'll get a reference to p.status up here. So p equals document query selector p.status, and we will set the p.status p.text content equal to window get computed style of the document.body element, and we'll get the visibility. So at this point, right now it's visible. Okay. So we have a slight update here. Let me test my phone just to make sure I'm getting the freshest bytes. So you can see here with my phone that the full page body is visible. That's still visible. Okay, so there's something else going on in this area. Let's jump back inside here. So we have scroll to anchor. Let me just erase all of that. Let's see what else we can strip away without losing the buggy behavior. So I need to jump back from here over to this URL. All right, so we're still reproing. Change pool and refresh. Let's take out that logic. Change device and refresh. Let's take out this logic. Set message formatting and redirect. Let's take out that as well. Let's see if we're still working with a functioning site here. Yep, the bug still repros. Set a tag cookie, we don't need that. Get cookie, we just obsoleted that. Another set cookie here. So we're just going to delete some of this code that is really not needed. We have a get notifications count, so we don't really need that either. Okay. There is another area down here, so you notice this is where we have the viewport is being set down there on focus and blur. So let's see, we'll focus on that. No issues. We have a load. So we can delete this new fast click. That was the one that caused some issues before whenever we pulled the actual framework code out. So deleting that, still repros, that's good. You can see here the size field sets, that's where they're setting the visibility of the body back to visible. And then every time they call resize, they're doing the same thing. So let me just pull out all of this. So this is actually going to be another key portion of the code, because you notice here they're actually dealing with the viewport element. They're modifying the contents. The viewport element is basically what controls what you see on the screen and how big it is whenever you're on a mobile device. So we're going to strip all of that out. So this is really interesting. It looks like there's a couple different focus events. I click on this and it toggles it. It's almost as if two events are firing. The first one brings it up, and then the second event closes it. So that's kind of where my mind is going for this right now. I'm going to delete this portion. And this validation message, we don't need that. This mobile device, we just have that returning true. This format, we'll leave that alone. Base 64, this stuff just looks like it's not going to be super needed. Yeah, I don't think we're going to need any of this. Cookie property definitions. They are modifying strings so they can add this encode base 64 functionality. And let's see. I'm going to strip out all of this, actually, all of this string logic. I don't think we need any of that. And let's save and refresh the page once I get my phone woke. Okay, so we're still getting the same behavior there. And again, that looks like it's two different events. Like there's an event that's bringing this up and then an event that's closing it. Let's try. That's on the window on resize. What else do we have here? We have this scroll to top functionality. We don't really need that. So we have a form element blur. That's interesting. I'm going to delete that just to be safe. We still get the same behavior. That's good. So let's try and delete the form element focus. Save that. And the great thing about this is that, again, we have these autoresponders, which without those, this would be very difficult. We'd have to download the whole site. It just could be very, very tough. You'd have to make sure you get all of the different individual sub-resources. I want to see if I can actually strip away this line of code and go with something just native DOM stuff. So we'll do document.body.style.visibility equals visible. So we should be doing the same thing. So we should see that this behaves the same way. The only difference is we're now taking jQuery further and further out of the scenario. Okay, so I believe we're doing the same thing, but we're not using jQuery to set the body style. So let's look at this. So body CSS visibility. We actually need to look at what body CSS visibility does. And one thing I do want to do real quick is, I wonder if we can alert $.fn.jQuery. I want to see which version of jQuery we're actually using here. So this is jQuery 1.11.0. So in jQuery 1.11.0, we actually are doing something interesting with the CSS visibility property. So what I want to do at this point is I'm actually going to probably go and look at jQuery source code and see how it sets, if it sets visibility a little bit differently than other things. But before I do that, let me strip out some more code here. So let me rip out all of this init select. Don't think we need any of that. Okay, so we're still breaking. It's good. Match start. I don't think we're using that anymore. Init form highlighting. This is interesting, but let's go ahead and delete that and see if that impacts it in any way. Because I noticed a couple of the input, comma, text area selectors inside there. So it still breaks. It's, validation. We can get rid of that. All right, look at the password, still breaking. Update front end. So this looks like we can probably just get rid of everything. And the search results too, I'll get rid of that. We don't need any of this. So we've pretty much stripped away all of our JavaScript with the exception of like basically a call to jQuery's CSS method. And get rid of all this now. And we'll get rid of basically all of this as well. Really all we need here is this portion of code. So yep, and actually we'll reduce this even further. We'll just take this little piece of logic out. Just a slight change. And instead of calling a function that does that, we'll just call that directly. So we're down to basically window load. And yeah, we'll delete that. Now we want to make sure that we fire that load event once. So we'll just call load at the very end of that. And let's see if this still repros with all that JavaScript removed. Sure enough, it does. Awesome. So we've basically reduced like this JavaScript file from hundreds of lines of code down to 5 or so. And at this point, we kind of have a good idea of what's happening. The Windows load event triggers this logic that adds an event handler for the window resize event. And when the window resize event fires, jQuery sets the body CSS visibility to visible. Now there's still some more I can get rid of here. I'm going to go ahead and add window add event listener load. And to be honest, like we don't even really need the load event in there. If we just pull that out, and we get here, we do want to make sure the initial resize fires because by default that body is not shown. So we'll just call resize on this. Save that and we'll check out the page again. Because this code takes place at the very end of the document, that's why we don't need the window load event. We already know that the document has basically loaded at this point, so we're able to rip that out. And I'm going to go ahead and strip out the window on resize as well. And we'll just do window add event listener, resize, and we'll put this in there as much as we can as just raw vanilla JavaScript with DOM. The body portion, we'll leave that. And that is the jQuery logic that seems to be breaking everything. And actually, let me pull this function out so we can call it independently. We'll just call it draw. So we'll call this function draw. So now we only have one line of actual jQuery inside here. We have this body wrapper, which, you know what, this portion here, I happen to know that whenever you create a jQuery object, the jQuery init method goes and tries to figure out what exactly type of thing you're dealing with. Let's not have it go find the body. Let's actually just point it straight to the body. So document.body. Let's save this, and I also want to call draw once so that everything is visible. All right, let's see if this works. This should still repro with next to no jQuery at all. Yep, so that's still reproing. So I might actually have a bug from my buddy Dave Methvin, the president of the jQuery Foundation. Let's see here. Yeah, so we're down to just this line of code right here. And again, if I remove this line of code, we shouldn't see, actually we'll find that at this point, the body won't even be visible. It's just gonna be a big black screen. But if we were to come inside here and I were to do the same thing using just vanilla JavaScript, document.body.style.visibility equals visible, and I save this and I refresh, there's our form, but we don't get this funky behavior. So something about this, updating the body visibility through jQuery is causing an issue. At this point, this is actually a jQuery bug, it seems like. And so this might require, you know, a pull request or some type of contribution back into the jQuery project to make sure that this actually works across all browsers, because there's something about changing the visibility inside jQuery, the way that it's actually going about doing it, that is going to cause the issue. So again, we're dealing with jQuery 1.1. You know, we actually have the luxury, because we're working with the autoresponder, we can actually hot swap out the version of jQuery and see if maybe a newer version of jQuery continues to reproduce the issue. So let's actually try that real quick. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and I'll comment out my vanilla JavaScript approach. And if anybody wants to, they could let Dave Methvin know that I'm going to be filing a bug before too long. He's a really awesome guy, so super humble, super talented developer. So just to kind of make sure this is still working before I switch out the version of jQuery. Focus on password. Yep. Okay. So let's jump over to here. I'm going to go to jQuery.com, and we're going to download a new copy of jQuery. I'll probably get the uncompressed, the compressed version. So let's go download. We have the compressed production jQuery 3.1. So instead of 1.11.0, this will give us a much newer version. I think 1.11 is actually from around 2014, maybe. So let's copy that link. We'll jump into our autoresponder real quick. We'll close this one, but we do want to pull up the other one. So back into the HTML page, we're going to edit that response, go into the text view, and then down at the very bottom is where jQuery is. So you notice we have this bundle down here. We'll just replace that source with this newer jQuery version, jQuery 3.1.0. And let's go and see if the page still continues to work. So we'll wake it up. So refresh. So at this point, we're just using a brand new version of jQuery. And there is a difference. So jQuery 1.11 appears to repro the bug. jQuery 3.1.0 does not. So let's just make sure that this is the case. Here's my jQuery 3.1 code. I'm going to copy that. We'll Control Z. This is the older one. So I'm going to put in a HTML comment here. So effectively, this second script tag with the newer version of jQuery is it's going to be inert. It's not going to do anything. And let's jump back out here and load this page up again. I just did it again. Darn it. Okay. Let's go back. Refresh this page. So now we're on the older version of jQuery. Pops up, goes down. Pops up, goes down. Okay, so I think that's actually probably the reduction is, or the solution is just to update the version of jQuery. Because if we were to switch this and we comment out the older one, and we pull the comments off of the newer one, so now we're loading jQuery 3.1.0. And just to confirm that, I'll put a script tag inside here that does an alert on $.jQuery. Save that, and we'll go back to the page real quick. So we should see 3.1.0, that's what we see. And this behavior no longer repros. So yeah, it took us a little while to get here, but that is the bug. There's something that jQuery 1.11 was doing that apparently was realized and was resolved in newer versions of jQuery. So at this point, you know, what we wind up doing is, I mean, we could go in and look at what exactly jQuery 1.11.0 was doing and try to accommodate for that from the browser end, but because it's, you know, this is not necessarily a browser issue. You saw whenever we do the basic approach of updating through standard native DOM properties, we simply don't have the problem. Let's see, I'm going to jump over to top center here. So, you know, we could in fact consider making changes to the browser, but that doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem really like it's appropriate. Simply because, again, this is not something that is a problem with the JavaScript in the browser itself. It's not a problem with the DOM support in the browser itself for the implementation. If we go and we set the document.body, style.visibility to visible, we don't get the same issue. And so effectively, there was something that was in jQuery 1.11 that was fixed before jQuery 3.1 or in jQuery 3.1. And so, you know, with sites like this, the best approach usually is outreach. So we want to find someone who knows somebody who knows somebody who once went to school with somebody who knows somebody that works on this site, and try to leverage those channels and encourage them, hey, you know, would you consider updating your version of jQuery that you have? There seems to be a bug in 1.11.0 that manifests itself in on a Windows phone. You know, I'm curious too. I happen to have an iPhone here with me as well. I want to see if a similar thing happens, because again, this is based on the viewport resizing, and I don't know how the iPhone kind of handles the viewport resizing whenever the keyboard comes up. So let's see here. If I'm going to open up Brave on my iPhone, and let's see if I can go to this particular URL. So this is portal.atag. -1.com /account/login. Okay. So loading up on my iPhone now, and if I click email, Yeah, so on the iPhone, apparently it does not behave the same way. You notice if you focus, the keyboard stays up. So it may be the case that um, either mobile devices weren't tested with, or a subset of mobile devices were tested with. And yeah, so there doesn't appear to be the same issue in that version of jQuery with an iPhone. But it's good because jQuery's already fixed this, so that's nice. So I don't know if somebody already filed a bug for that particular URL in the past, but if they did, this is some helpful information that we can then put on there. So I might look real quick to see if there was a bug filed against that. So I'm going to jump over to bugs.microsoftedge.com. And let's see here, we'll just do a quick search for a tag. Nothing found. And I don't think I'm going to file a bug against that either, simply because it's not, we've gone through, we've done the reduction. It's not an issue with Edge. So I think the best thing is probably to try and figure out who it was that referred that to me. So let's see. So that was Peter Wright. I'll just kind of update him and let him know that that was the issue. So we'll say I was able to reduce this. The problem is with jQuery 1.11 switching the page to 3.1.0 resolves the issue. All right, so that is, I'll send that out to everybody since that's kind of something we looked at today. And I might even, nah, let's see. All right, so that pretty much wraps up that first URL. It's not always that it's not always that difficult, surprisingly, to figure out what it actually is causing the problem on some of these sites. In this particular case, we're dealing with viewport. We're dealing with differences in the way mobile devices work with on-screen keyboards. We're dealing with jQuery, so much stuff, visibility. This actually is that was probably one of the more difficult ones to reduce. It's not usually that tough, but there are so many variables at play in this particular scenario that it kind of merits some extended investigation. So I want to see, we'll take a quick look through some of the chats here. So Wesley, we got it, we fixed it, we figured out what the problem was. Let's see, so Hunter has a page where the item lists don't load properly. It loads all the items only if we turn off and turn on the favorites bar. So that actually sounds like a invalidation issue. Let's see. So this should be .com after Microsoft above. So I actually want to look at this URL here. This looks like it's on Heroku. And let's pull up a browser. Paste and go and see what happens. So this is pulling up. Okay. So let me jump over. I'll switch to just showing the full screen now. So from what I understand, Hunter is saying, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, that this particular site doesn't work well unless you do some kind of visibility changes. Now, actually, in this case, I'd really need to see. One thing we can do is we can just copy this real quick, and we'll try run it in another browser. Oops. Let's try. try running it in Chrome and see what the UI looks like, and see if we notice any differences in between these two. Not Heroku, Hungarian. That's what the address was. I think I said Heroku before. Okay, so if I just compare the top portion of these two sites, actually one thing I can do is snap them. And I'll just refresh the two and see what they look like. So we have the address, no, please do not translate. Okay. I don't immediately see anything missing. This could just be, my eyes not picking it up, but definitely if there's something that is different between these two, we have the links up here, menu seems to work, all the items down here appear to be present. There's an ad. We jump down, look at the bottom. It still seems like everything is kind of where it's supposed to be, or at least it's consistent across Chrome and Edge. So yeah, if there's an issue there, screenshots would be very helpful. I definitely would love to see if we can figure out what the problem is, if we can get some more details on that. So let's see. Ken Heslip says I can't get categories button to fly out here. Let's go ahead and let's see. So it looks like that might have been an extension issue. Excellent. So I think I'm in a good spot now where we can move on to another URL. One thing I need to do though is, having just kind of done the reduction for that mobile site, is actually need to probably take some notes on that and see who we can send that to. So that was the atag1.com, I believe. We might try to reach out to them via Twitter and let them know that there's a problem with their login page. That's portal.atag1. So let's see if we can find them on Twitter. Yep, they are there. So atagcv. All right, so I'm going to go to their Twitter account and just kind of let them know. Friendly little insight that this particular version of jQuery doesn't work super well. All right, so let's see. I believe that is them. So that's atagcv. Okay, so I'm just kind of responding back to the individual that initially reported that, adding atagcv so they're aware this particular URL. Uses jQuery 111, updated to version 3.1 to resolve some browser issues. All right, so I can then shoot that off. Let's see what else we have. Rick. Yeah, so Rick just says it was cool watching us trace down the issue. Yeah, I apologize that it took so long. Again, some of the stuff is super trivial to figure it out. Some of it takes just a little bit of time. So let's see, Anil Kumar has another item here. It says that assignments in this course are slow and buggy, whereas with Firefox it works fine. Just add .com after code school. So let's do that. Let's see. Now I'll need a little bit more information though. So whenever you say assignments, presumably once I drop into the site, then I'll be able to see exactly what it is we're talking about. But just in case, more information would always be very, very helpful. So I'm going to paste this into my URL bar and go back over to code school and add .com. Okay, and this is loading for me now. Yeah, so it looks like I would actually have to have an account for Code School in order to work on this one. Yeah, video and assignments. I don't know that I'll be able to. Let me do a quick search and see if we have any bugs related to Code School. Let's see. So go to my bug tracker here, and I'll just do a quick search for Code School. Let's see. So there are actually, let's see. There's a couple bugs that we have filed, historical bugs for Code School, but they aren't related to the performance of assignment or anything like that. So what I can do, Anil, is I can check to see if somebody on the team here has a Code School account. If they do, then we can go ahead and log in and go through the scenario. But it's entirely up to you. If you have a set of credentials that can be used for testing purposes here, that's appreciated as well. Just please make sure that you give as much detail as you possibly can whenever you're sending the email. In fact, you can DM me on Twitter, and I'll send you my email address. But yeah, as much detail as possible. Let me know exactly which buttons you're clicking, what you're typing, where you're pressing, which version of Edge you're using on what type of device, and I'll definitely go in there and see if we can do some performance checking real quick, just to see kind of what is really causing it to be slow. And I mean, we can do real quick. We can do I'll give you a quick example here, and this is something that you can do as well. So I'll kind of teach you kind of a pro tip. Let me jump over and share my desktop. So let's go through the performance recorder on the desktop. So I'm going to announce this real quick on Twitter, because this is going to be fun. I think people actually enjoy this. Let's see. I'm going to jump into my past tweets, and I'm going to grab this URL. And just announce real quick. Okay, so that is announced. If you're watching, you're on Twitter. I just tweeted that we're going to talk about the performance tools in Microsoft Edge. Please feel free to retweet that. Give me some reach there. Maybe we'll teach some people some really cool tricks today. But I need to find basically a site that works kind of slow. So, one example that's, and again, right now my machine is under a pretty hefty burden because it's streaming high resolution. It actually is connected to a remote desktop as well, and it's doing all sorts of different things. Actually, I want to go ahead and maybe see if I can lighten that burden up just a little bit. Let's see, I'll close down some applications here and there. So the machine I'm actually using is a Surface Book i7. It was a Christmas gift from my wife last year. She knows me all too well, so she got me a really nice computer. I had a Lenovo. Oh, what is that called? I'm totally blanking on it, but it's the kind that it basically opens up and goes like a full. It goes all the way around. Lenovo Yoga, which is a sweet, sweet laptop. I love that as well. But my Surface Book is hands down my most favorite ever. So let me see if there's anything else I can close, and then we'll jump into the performance tooling on the browser. Rick, thank you for the mention there. So let's see, I'm going to jump into, okay. So I need a slow site. I don't actually need a slow site. I can use a non-slow site. We can do something here. I'll use the dev.microsoftedge.com, which, if you are curious, is also edge.ms. So let me switch over to that, and I'll show my screen here. Okay, so I'm going to go to edge.ms. And here is our beautiful website. So if you're looking for developer resources, that type of stuff, this is definitely the place to come get them. You've got all that stuff on here. Data, if you want to know, for instance, which CSS properties are the most popular on the web, you can come here and figure that out. If you want to see, okay, what about the color ones? These are all the color properties and colors most popular. There's a lot of JavaScript on this page. Not too much, actually, just some simple filtering and everything. Some graphs here, things that get shown. I'll show you which browser has more use of that property across the web, and then which values are used across the web as well. But one thing that we might want to do, say for instance there was a problem on this page and it was just performing very slowly, and we're trying to figure out what exactly is causing this thing to come to this screeching halt whenever we are working on it or whenever we're using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop back into my developer tools. Now, if you've never used the developer tools, you notice whenever I right click, I have this inspect element option right here. You may not have that. If you've never used your developer tools, they are not going to be available in your context menu. There's a simple solution to that, just pressing F12. So you notice if I come in here and I press F12 on my keyboard, that actually opens up my developer tools. They might take just a second to load, especially since I'm streaming and using a lot of my my resources here. Those will load up. Mine loaded up into the console. Now, once you've done this, though, once you've actually pressed F12 to open up your developer tools, you have signed this contract with Edge saying, I am a developer, or I'm at least, to some degree interested in developer-related items. And so from this point forward, whenever you right-click on a web page, and again, you can try this one more time. If you just tried it and you didn't see Inspect Element, you can try it again, and you should see Inspect Element on the page now, or on your context menu. So that's step one. You have now gotten past the gateway. You are officially a developer because you have been in the developer tools without being terrified as to what just happened. The developer tools, you can dock them, you can undock them. So Control P should pop those off depending on where your focus is. So if you're focused in the dev tools, if you've clicked on them, Control P will dock it and undock it. So I'll Control P again to put it back in place. And you can resize the tools themselves. So we have the page up on top, the dev tools on bottom. One of the dev tools that we're going to be looking at is the performance one. So this is the one that I just mentioned on Twitter that we're going to go through and actually figure out how to use this. Just as the name suggests, this is about measuring the performance of the page. So the scripting, the CSS, all of this stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and close. You might notice that some of you might actually have this small this area down here. This is actually the console. So if we were to do some code 1 + 1, you'll notice we actually get the result down there too. We can close that by clicking this button, or you can hit Command or Control tilde. Command tilde. I still have a little bit of Mac vocabulary in my mind. So let's go ahead and what I want to do is just we're looking at this page. We'll notice that whenever we type something here, there's actually some dynamic stuff taking place, and it's dramatically reducing the size of a list and then showing it again. There's also you'll notice if I come down here and I type, so there's this button show more down here, but if we type size, the button is no longer visible. So there's some JavaScript happening on the page that we might actually be curious how well it's performing. I really hope this works out well, because this is code that I wrote. So if it's really unperformant or performs badly, then this would be kind of egg on my face. So what we want to do is just click Start a Performance Session. So this is now recording performance data on the site. It's kind of taking a survey of what's going on. I'll do a quick refresh. And then I'll come down here and I'll do a search for flex, and we'll look at like the flex wrap property. So here's going to be trend data that will load in just a moment. So flex is used very infrequently across the web, but when it is, flex wrap is used infrequently across the web, but when it is, wrap is the dominant value. Good, we've collected some performance data. So at this point, I'm going to hit Control P and pop out my DevTools. I want these things to be full screen for this piece. And now we are looking at this beautiful graph of our DevTools. So I don't think, yep. So many of the DevTools, oh, yes, okay. Many of the devils, there are definitely some devils in the DevTools. And so let's see here. Yeah, I'm trying to check real quick. If I do Control Plus, I can increase the size of my DevTools, and it was just a little delayed because of the broadcasting. But you notice here we're looking at about 40 seconds worth of recording. Across the top are these small activity indicators. So this is a navigation event. You'll notice at 8.386 seconds into this recording session, we navigated. Tells us where we went. Just after 10 seconds, so at 10.8 seconds, we navigated again. And actually, this looks like it was an animated GIF, maybe. Yeah, so the DOM content loaded fire event also happened there. Over here, we have DOM content loaded. Here's another navigation event. And so if we just kind of poke through, you can see what types of high-level events, these app lifecycle markers, as they're called, happened. Below that, we have this color coding. So I'm actually going to zoom in on just a piece of this here. And everything is nice and color-coded. So you can see the blue here represents loading. So we spent, in this selection of time, 25% of our time was spent loading. And so this is actually parsing that HTML. The next section was script evaluation. We spent about 13% of this section or this time doing script evaluation. So if you start to notice, for instance, that script evaluation is kind of growing and growing and growing, and it's getting more and more ridiculous. In fact, we should be able to clear the selection. You can see overall that we spent 80% of our time just doing nothing. The browser was recording, but nothing was really happening. 6% of the time or so was spent parsing, and then just beyond that we had 3.5% painting. So this is actually drawing things to the screen, which is a very key thing to look at too, because you notice we have quite a bit of paint events right here, and so that's always something you want to look at. Okay, is there some way we can reduce the amount of paints that are happening to the screen? They'll even, I believe, tell us the size. Yeah. 24 by 961. So that is a kind of narrow but tall block of pixels that are being painted to the screen. Another thing you want to look at here too is what thread this is on. So oftentimes you'll notice that some JavaScript that is running for a long time might actually be locking up the UI thread. And when that happens, the page locks up. So it seems like the browser is unresponsive, but in reality, there's probably a little bit of scripting that is just locking up that UI thread. So let's see, if we were scroll down, we had a DOM event, a mouse move. So whenever you see something like this, it is likely because there's something listening to that particular event. It's not going to track every possible event in the browser. There are key up, key down, mouse move, focus, blur, resize, scroll, all these different types of events, many different events that could fire and do happen in the page lifecycle, but the performance recorder is going to capture the events that actually have event handlers registered against them. And so in this particular case, you can see there was a DOM event, a mouse move event to be specific, that happened, and it actually was on this target element. So there's a trend in sites using. So if I were to jump back over here, I could actually go here and see this section here is the trend in sites using canvas element. So that's where the mouse move event happened. Let's see, I'm going to get my chat over on the other screen where I can see it. Okay. So yeah, you can see that entire thing was spent, basically 97% of that was just the DOM event. The event listener, you can actually jump in and see where the actual event listener is for that. So if we were to click on that, this takes us all the way over into here where there's chart of instance at events. This is where that mouse move event was actually fired, where it was set up. And so you can actually jump from your performance tooling into your JavaScript real quick just to see kind of where exactly this event handler or event listener rather was registered. So we had a mouse move event again. So there were two of those that were fired, both roughly the same size, 2.91, 2.98 seconds. I'm sorry, actually 3.34 and 2.98 seconds. So it's always helpful to see kind of which events are being fired the most. There's a third one down here, fourth one down here, some painting between those. The painting makes sense because you'll notice as we move around on here, sometimes we cause elements to appear, like this box right there. So that would actually be another paint event. I believe there might be a hover effect on some of these as well. So, but yeah, those paint events right there would actually be expected. Let's see, if we were to scroll down a little bit more, we get down to more mouse move events, a couple paint events interspersed. That all makes sense. Mouse out, so we've actually left the element at this point. You can see that that's the canvas again. So once we leave the element, there's actually logic in here that listens for the mouse out. And I believe that's going to take us to the same section because this is just some general all-purpose code that is going to set up the event listeners for basically a collection of events. If we wanted to, we could even pause here. So I could set a debugger on line 50. We could refresh this page by hitting Control-R. What this is doing is behind the scenes, it's refreshing the browser, and it gets to this logic right here, and we can actually use our dev tools to see which events they're actually wanting to interact with. So there's mouse move, touch start, touch move, and mouse out. So these are the only 4 events that we would actually expect to see in our performance tools based on this block of code right here, because it's essentially looping over this section. It's calling each of array events. So this function right here is going to be ran one time per array event. So it's going to be ran once for mouse move, once for touch start, once for touch move, and once for mouse out. And so that's going to set up all that logic for us. Now because I refreshed, all of my performance data is now disconnected. This is from a previous session now, but it's still here if we want to kind of go through and just look at it. So there's more mouse move events. We finally get down to, in some of these areas, so we can look at a kind of a script heavy area. We have animation frame callbacks. So if we were to jump in and look at that, Here is this function right here. We can kind of see what this is doing. It's increments a current step variable. I'm actually not quite sure. This might be part, yeah, so this is part of the chart. So this is actually part of the logic that draws, the little box whenever you mouse over the chart itself. Let's see here. So we have style calculation. You can actually start to see where a lot of this time is spent. In fact, there are many times in which people will calculate styles just to immediately invalidate those styles and then recalculate those styles again. And they're really not quite sure because all of this stuff happens in milliseconds. In this case, you can see I have a style calculation that happens for 1.2 milliseconds. There's no way you're going to register that visually with your naked eye. 17.29, again, you're not going to see it. 4.6 or 4.16, and then finally we have layout here. So these looks like I think SVG elements. These use elements. More animation. Here's a HTTP request. So you notice that actually I can see the request for. Don't know what that URL is right there, but usage. Actually, I think that might be my file. So if we jump in here, and again, that link is broken, I think because of the session issue. So if we were to go, let's try and refresh this one more time, and we'll capture some new performance data. So we'll, let's see, drop this. We're actually frozen. So I want to, nope, I might have just froze my browser by docking my DevTools. I think I did. So let me go ahead and kill this real quick. This is a known bug, by the way. It's already filed, so I don't have to file it today. Let's see. I'm actually got. I think I might have to figure out some new streaming option because the broadcasting puts an incredible amount of strain on the machine, which causes issues that don't actually happen whenever I'm not broadcasting. Like right now, everything is kind of just freaking out. Oh, here we go. We got Edge up, end task. Okay. So that ends the task for Microsoft Edge, which will hopefully bring some sanity to the machine. Again, I'm just killing this machine with the broadcast. Of course, losing Edge also means we lose the chat window. So I have to bring that back. There's YouTube. There's the chat window. See if I can resize this. Okay. Page already came up too, so I'm going to get the chat window resized and put in the right position. Yeah, so Wesley mentions, the number of times that the browser become unresponsive, it has greatly reduced. I mean, it is in fact much better than it used to be. But as I was mentioning, I rarely see these types of hangs like this. Let's see if I can get that browser sized correctly. The issue with broadcasting is that I'm using tons of resources. I mean, I'm sending a high definition video over to YouTube, so it's a little tough. I'm honestly I'm not much of a media video person, but I am trying to see if there's maybe a better way to broadcast using capture cards or something that is not going to be using all of my system resources, so that I'm not putting unnecessary strain on the machine itself. But let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to capture one more performance trace, and then we can actually kind of inspect this a little bit. So I'm going to jump back over here, switch my display a little bit. You notice now if you right-click, if you pushed F12 in the last session, you actually have inspect element there. I am told that having the browser tools detached is better for performance and the hangs and stuff that you might encounter from time to time. So I just noticed I also unplugged my power brick accidentally. I wonder how low the power got before I realized that. So, okay, I lost about 25% of my power. That might also have been kind of an influence here, going into kind of a lower power mode. Let's see here. So again, I want to jump into performance, start profiling. I'm going to jump back over to my page, and then we'll just refresh. And we'll do a quick search once the page is loaded up here. So there's the animation. That is all paint events right there as we're animating those up. So there are multiple paint events just on loading this page, which again is okay. If I do a search for something like size, we jump over to font size. And let's see what the #1 font size metric is. Pixels. Nice. It's 91.1% in Chrome and 89% in Edge. So that means 91.1% of the sites we encountered when crawling the web in Chrome use pixels for their font sizes, and 89% of those websites use pixels for their font sizes in Edge. So that's an interesting little issue there. Not much of an issue, but it's just interesting. Facebook was the #1 there in the top 10. So yeah, helpful details on this site. Let's go ahead and stop our performance trace. And we'll see what we get here. So we're analyzing the collected data. This again is kind of pulling everything into such a view that we can make sense of it. Nice graphs and stuff across the top. You'll notice that across the top here, one of the other things to look at is the visual throughput, or the frames per second. So areas like this, we'd actually want to know, okay, what was causing the frames per second to drop so dramatically right there? So we could actually come in and see, okay, well, there's HTML parsing, some layout. There's a couple requests, actually happening here as well. There's a giant paint, 3000 by 1788. That sounds like my entire viewport. So I was likely scrolling or something around that area. But yeah, so it actually looks like it just, for somehow, there we go. Oh, come on. Yeah, streaming puts the hurt on the machine. Right now, it is just trying to figure out where my selection is. I'm going to let this sit for a second. I'm still, okay, it has found my selection. So this is nice. There is quite a bit of stuff happening inside here, though, as you notice. Only 10% of this time was spent in idle. We have events comprising 64% of this time. So Anil, we were talking earlier about, some websites are just kind of behaving a little bit slowly. This is precisely the tool you would want to use to try and identify the nature of those hangs. So you would start the performance recording, quickly go through the steps that yield the hang, or the delay that you're actually experiencing, and then come back and stop the recording. The great thing about these recordings is you can go through and study them yourself. So it looks like right here there's a lot of ready state change events that fired. There was a really long DOM content loaded event that took 5.7 seconds. If we actually open that up, so there's some stuff inside here. If we expand that, we can see what it was doing. So we have garbage collection. And again, if the text is too small in the DevTools, just Control++ a few times. And that'll make the UI kind of globally get a little bit bigger for you. So right now my zoom is at 125, 150, and this makes it much easier on the eyes. So we notice actually inside this DOM content loaded event handler, if I expand and collapse this, again, the whole thing takes 5.77 seconds. Starts out with some garbage collection, does some layout work. Again, there's this timer here. Timers are usually things like set interval or set timeout. And so that's code that you want to either run once in the future or multiple times in the future. We have another style collection here. Again, if we expand those, we can see this is a style collection, or calculation rather, for HTML for the body. You can expand that to see the HTML element. Actually curious why that's putting an HTML element inside the body. That is a little weird. the body actually goes inside the HTML element. More garbage collection. So this is going through and picking up some of those, freeing up memory, essentially, things that we're no longer using. There was the DOM event, ready state change. So this actually looks, I'm not quite sure who's listening for ready state changes, but that's more often than not, XHRs. So these are asynchronous requests that are going to the server, and then you're listening for the ready state change to progress from stage 0 to stage 4, which says, hey, it's all done. The data is available. You can grab, the JSON from the response object or something like that, especially if you're using fetch. Although with fetch, I don't think you have a ready state change. You may, I don't know. I have to look into that. But XHR, you definitely do. Then there was a few different HTTP requests down here. So that was the CSS for Edge. This is chart legend. So this looks like actually chart stuff. Usage. So this was the scripting that I was mentioning earlier that I actually, I think, wrote in large part. So if we were to come inside here and look at kind of where we're loading this from, scripts, usage. Yep, so this is going to be minified and kind of made a little more difficult to read. But it's essentially the logic that sets up the chart and everything. So you can see how easy it is to hop back and forth between the performance tooling and the debugger tab, which is going to take you back into the code, let you see exactly what's happening. One thing you want to keep track of, obviously, is that frames per second. If you start to see that drop, then there's likely some type of activity that you may want to turn your sights to and see if there's some way you can alleviate some of that pressure so that you're not blocking the UI thread. And so whenever we're dealing with all this scripting inside here, this scripting is going to block the UI thread, which is going to prevent us from, drawing output to the screen. So let's see here. I'm still really curious what it was that was doing that. You can see I have this timer in here. There's not really a whole lot of scripting that's mentioned in this particular portion outside of the DOM content loaded event clearly triggering something. So that would be something for me to look into, since this is one of the sites that I get to work on. Another thing that's really cool is this memory kind of profiler. Yes, Orazio, you can post some bugs. If anybody has a URL or something buggy they want to kind of go through and look at right now, feel free to share it in the chat window. The chat window, if you're watching on YouTube, I think is on the side or something. Yeah. The memory profiler is really cool too. This is so at any particular time, in this page's life cycle, the web page is using some amount of memory. It is allocated memory for images, for HTML, for elements, for objects that aren't even visible. So in your JavaScript, for arrays and strings and everything, it's packing up the memory, and it has a total number of objects that are being held in memory. So that for a normal website, you could see 20, 30,000 objects. And again, the objects are elements, strings, arrays, all these different actual objects and stuff. And so we can actually track that as well. So we can start profiling here. You can see there's a kind of total memory usage at the very beginning of a memory profile. You often want to take like a base snapshot. So we will record right now. And you can see that this page is 1.49 megabytes in size with 8,084 objects in memory. So if I were to, I'm trying to think if there's something I can do that would increase the number of objects in memory, but I don't think there is. Let's see, however, if I come in here and I type something. Actually, it looks like it won't let me shift focus away. And pin that. I'll type font. Yep, and this is a known bug too. For some reason, it opens up additional windows whenever the DevTools are pinned. I really don't know that I'll be able to use this too effectively while I'm broadcasting. Again, because I'm just hammering the machine. Yep, okay, I'll have to try that another time. I really need to figure out a better way to broadcast, because this is just kind of unfortunate whenever applications cease to work properly because of memory issues. let's see if I can. I mean, even the broadcast app is really getting hammered too. Goodness gracious. This is, I think I just lost the chat window. Yeah, I apparently did something. Maybe it's over. Maybe I've been closing pop-ups for like the last 30 seconds now. So it says there's a problem with space lines in Google Plus comments. Yeah, if you have an actual issue with Google Plus, do feel free to share it. If you can repro it right here, yeah, bugs.microsoftedge.com. Please file it there. Share it in the chat room. If anybody else can repro it, we'll go there, we'll sign in, we'll click the Me Too button, which shows that this is not just an issue on your machine, that this is an issue that many people face. But I think right now it's 12 o'clock. I'm probably going to cut this broadcast. So we get to play a little bit inside the performance tooling, but I'm probably going to cut this broadcast for right now and maybe pick up here in about 20, 30 minutes whenever I get back. So if you run into some slow sites, if there's anything that we can kind of inspect and go through together, please let me know. I'm going to try and stay out of my dev tools though. Actually, you know what? I could totally just use my remote desktop again. That's kind of diverting the system resources. I'm probably going to do that. So dev tools are not off limits. I'm just going to use them through remote desktop on a different machine. That way we're not using this machine's resources. We're just going to be transferring pixels across the wire. And so, yep, I'm going to go grab some lunch, but thank you all for kind of hanging out up until now. Again, I'm Jonathan Sampson, Program Manager on the Microsoft Edge team. Thank you for chilling out with me for a couple of hours. I will talk to you soon.